Iran, just like Russia. We had to put up with that for 2.5 years. And after 2.5 years, I could have told them the first hour, but after 2.5 years, and they know it was a hoax, but this isn't a hoax, this is real. I mean, this is real stuff. They hacked my campaign, they spied on my campaign, and they gave the information to Kamala. So when is the grand jury meeting? I'd like to know. Is there going to be a grand jury?
Accuse your enemies of that which you yourself are guilty. And it seems to be happening here again. And it's always the terrorist nations. Have you noticed that? It's always America's most bitter enemies that work with the Democrats. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that when Sun Tzu says the friend of my enemy is my friend, or the enemy of my friend is my enemy, and the friend of my enemy is my friend, or something like, or the enemy of my, whatever, you know the thing. But basically what's happening here is we're starting to see who the Democrats are aligned with. Who are their friends? Ukraine is their friend. Ukraine, one of the most corrupt organizations or countries we've ever seen. Ukraine, which took the money that we sent them, and a lot of Vladimir Zelensky's friends and pals and buddies went and bought Ferraris and villas in Spain. He had to fire them all. And there was an investigation. We remember the Sam Bankman-Fried FTX scandal, don't we? A lot of that was money that we sent that ended up back here in the United States after Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX made some donations to some Democrat lawmakers. You have all kinds of things that happen. We're still investigating the ties that Joe Biden, the big guy, and the rest of his family have to China, a country which would love to see the United States fail. And now Iran. Iran, the FBI is reporting, has been feeding stolen information about Donald Trump's campaign to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That seems to me like it's election interference and Iranian collusion and all these other things all rolled up into one. It definitely seems to me like it's some kind of an impeachable offense. And it's not just the president. You can impeach the vice president too. They're both bound by the Constitution. They're both bound by the rules, and they both can be impeached. And if this is true, why wouldn't they be? I mean, they impeached Donald Trump for what they thought happened. It's the same thing, only this time it appears that the FBI has evidence to back it all up. It's a very interesting situation, and it seems every single minute almost we get more and more of these instances where the things they accuse Donald Trump of doing, they've been doing themselves. It's an important election, too, for America's allies, because the stronger our enemies become, the weaker our allies become. We saw what happened with Iran. We saw how Iran has emboldened Hezbollah and Hamas and how they've attacked Israel over and over again and how Israel has had to fight back, and they've done it very creatively. And Donald Trump was speaking yesterday to this Israeli organization, the Israeli National something or other, and he was talking about the fact, how much he helped Israel when he was president, and how Israel is our staunchest and most important ally in the Middle East, and how this is an important election not just for the United States of America, but also for Israel.
This is the most important election in the history of the United States, and it's also the most important election in the history of Israel. Can you imagine that? A non-Israeli election is the single most important election that Israel will ever have. Isn't that something?
Isn't that something? And it's true, because right now Israel's being attacked on two fronts, probably more actually. And Iran has money, and Iran is getting more money by the day because people are buying oil from Iran again, which Donald Trump did not allow them to do. Iran is getting money from the United States. There's all kinds of barters and swaps going on. We remember all the money that Barack Obama left on the runway in Iran for the hostages. This is something that Donald Trump knew was a threat. And the only way to get rid of the Iranian threat was to bankrupt him, which is what he did. He cut him off. He didn't allow anyone to buy oil from them, and they went broke. And they were not able. They were not able to fund Hamas or Hezbollah or attacks on Israel. But now, thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, now they've got all the money in the world. And not only that, they've got money to hire hackers, get information from Donald Trump, and sell it to the opposition, which is the president and the vice president of the United States. And if they win, if Kamala Harris wins, this war with Israel in the Middle East will continue. Israel will continue to get bombarded. Iran will get stronger. Israel will get weaker. So Donald Trump is 100% correct. This is the most consequential election, not just for the United States of America, but for Israel. And as he's speaking to these Jewish American voters, he's saying, you guys got to vote for me.
Current polling has just been announced. Now, I just announced the polls and I'm now polling at about 40%. That means 60% of Jewish people are going to vote for Kamala or a Democrat. And honestly, you ought to have your heads examined. You ought to have your heads examined. And those votes may be necessary for us to win. I say us to win because we're in this together. But who are these people? Who are the 60% that would vote? And I really believe that bad things, very bad things are going to happen. And I'll put it to you very simply and as gently as I can. I wasn't treated properly by the voters who happen to be Jewish. I don't know. Do they know what the hell is happening? If I don't win this election, and the Jewish people would really have a lot to do with that if that happens, because at 40%, that means 60% of the people are voting for the enemy. Israel, in my opinion, will cease to exist within 2 years. And I believe I'm 100% right.
So Donald Trump's out there and he's saying, look, 40% of Jewish voters support me, but that means 60% of Jewish voters support the enemy. 40% of Jewish voters are voting for Donald Trump. That's up from the 29% last time around. But that means 60% of Jews are voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They're voting for the people that got Israel into this mess. They're voting for Kamala Harris, who wouldn't even go to the joint session of Congress when Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, was there speaking and asking for support. These are people who embolden Israel's enemies. And 60% of the Jewish population here in the United States is going to vote for them? Donald Trump says, what are you thinking? What are you doing? I'm the best friend Israel. And he's being very blunt. He's saying, look, you got to, as Kamala Harris would say, you've got to talk to your friends and you've got to talk to your neighbors and you've got to talk to your synagogues and you've got to talk to all of these people and say, yo, this is crunch time. It's not just the United States of America. It's Israel who's in danger. And Kamala Harris is not going to fix the problem. She's going to exacerbate the problem. If you want to protect Israel, if you want Israel to be around for another 4 years, you can't vote for the Democrats. You can't vote to give Iran more money. You can't vote for, Hezbollah and Hamas, and you can't vote for the party of the pro-Palestinian movement. I mean, it's right there in the vestibule of the congressional office buildings. The Cannon office building, Rashida Tlaib, sitting down there in a love circle or a chanting circle with pro-Palestinian supporters. When Benjamin Netanyahu came to Congress, Rashida Tlaib, a Democrat from Michigan, holding up a sign that says war criminal. These are not friends of Israel. Why are you voting with them? 60% of the Jewish population. That's what Donald Trump wants to know. And on the flip side, he goes, look, if I win, if you support me, if you vote for me, then you got no problems.
If I do win, Israel will be safe and secure, and we will stop the toxic poison of anti-Semitism from spreading here. All over America, it's spreading. It's spreading like it's never spread before. I've never seen anything like it. I really believe it would be obliteration, and it'll happen quickly, too. It's very close to happening. With your vote, we will reject anti-Semitism in our schools, reject it in our foreign policy. We will reject it in our immigration system. But all of that starts with rejecting Kamala Harris at the ballot box this election.
Yeah. If you want to save the United States, if you want to save Israel, if you want to save the world, what you need to do is you need to vote for Donald Trump. You need to vote for Donald Trump in 2024, in 47 days or whatever it happens to be. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess, not just here, but abroad. And Ben Stiller and Bryan Cranston and whoever else out there in Hollywood, that goes for you too. Everybody benefits. The United States of America, Israel. I mean, probably you know who doesn't benefit? Iran. Iran is the only person who does, that's the only country who won't benefit. And the reason Iran won't benefit is because Donald Trump will make sure that as a sworn enemy of the U.S., they will once again be bankrupt. They will be dead broke, and they won't be able at all to do harm to the United States of America, her citizens, her friends, or her allies anywhere in the world.